We're now being joined by Professor Victor Adetula, Chairman, Election Analysis at Center for Democracy and Development. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the morning show this morning. All right. We just heard Governor Soludo give his victory speech right there. And, you know, he won with about 422,000 votes, which is a landslide victory. The APC came a distant second with just 99,000 votes, despite having, you know, federal government backing at the moment. We also saw that the PDP, which was once a strong force in Anambra, collapsed to accumulating 1,400 votes. Now, what do you make of this massive victory margin, despite reports of, you know, low voter turnout? Do you believe the results suggest genuine popularity for Soludo, or is it the party APGA that did the magic this time around?
Thank you very much. The polling has come and gone, and we have result. A winner has emerged. But if we look around, like we said in our previous report, the level of competitiveness is very low, and that has implication for what is likely to be the pattern of governance. Evidently, there may not be a strong opposition to put the new government in check, which again has a far-reaching implication. Another thing is that we tend to ascribe or attribute so much to the political party strength to mobilize the people. I think differently. I think a lot of people in the Anambra election actually projecting the identity factor. APGA belongs to the East, and the symbol of that identity of the Easterner today is majorly APGA. And whosoever is flagging that is likely to receive solidarity vote. That's my own position.
All right, Professor Adetula, I would like you to further dissect the significance of what has just happened with the announcement of the result. What we have seen is, even though only 22% voter turnout, but then a resounding victory for APGA, for the governor. The flip side of it is that the opposition, like you rightly observed, has collapsed. And we're not just talking about any other opposition. We're talking about PDP first, which produced the first governor after we returned to democracy in 1999 in Anambra State with Tinubu. Less than 2,000 votes PDP recorded. ADC, the same thing. Labour Party, where a former governor of the state, Peter Obi, was the presidential candidate barely 2.5 years ago. 10,000 votes only. What is the implication, in your own opinion, of what has happened in Anambra in national politics, and who, in your opinion, are the actual winners and losers in this election?
INEC has announced the actual winner. And that is what we have today. But the other part of the question about the implication of this for national politics is very interesting. And at this point, we have to acknowledge the emerging of new dynamics, both at the regional and the national politics. Precisely in Anambra State, just before the election, we see a new pattern of political bargaining, and if you like, new alignment of political interests, especially between the region, the state, and the national and the federal. At several instances, you see the body language of even the incumbent governor now being returned, suggesting that, look, okay, as far as the state governorship election is concerned, it is ABGA. But at the same time, they're looking for increased alignment with the central political forces. And I think that is a slight departure from what it used to be. So one, it doesn't mean that ABGA that has won this particular governorship election will vote massively for ABGA 2027 for the presidential election. This is a result of new emerging alignment and realignment of political forces and interests within the states.
These are very valid points that you've made, and I love the distinction that you made between what happens at the state level when it comes to elections and what happens at the national level, emphasizing that ABGA does not have that much of an impact on the national level. So whatever has happened in Anambra State at this time and the strength that we've seen and the sweeping numbers that we've also seen is not a reflection of what to expect during the election of 2027. However, I am curious to know what you think the power play here is, because I know for a fact that Anambra State is an important state to win come 2027 for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. How do you think this win would reflect on that? You know, Chukwuma Charles Soludo being in ABGA as the governor, of course, we will see some level of support tilted towards the presidential elections. This support, is it going to now be tilted towards APC during the national election season, that's a presidential election, or is that support that he has received from his people going to also reflect on the ABGA candidate come 2027? That conflict of interest, how do you think is going to play out? Would we see a defection or not? Or would we see an ABGA governor supporting an APC president? Or do you think it's going to be an ABGA united front come 2027?
I will hang my response on two assumptions. The first assumption is an extension of what I said previously, that we don't have those strong political parties in Nigeria that are able to determine things. The process and outcome of election in Nigeria are not strictly determined on the strength of political party, but individual politicians and their interests and their hold and influence on their region. And what we have seen that has emerged is political friendship between the president and the governor of Anambra State. And what we have seen in terms of the results for APC will not significantly affect what APC is likely to win in 2027 in Anambra State. But the friendship, the political friendship, the political alliance, the new political bargain that has emerged and has played well for Governor Soludo this election will affect and be a plus for President Tinubu in 2027. That would be my own analysis for now.
All right, let's switch gears to the Labour Party again. I'd like your assessment on the Labour Party, which actually, swept the Southeast in 2023, and it failed to make impact with their candidate finishing far behind. Peter Obi lost his polling unit. George Moghalu also lost his polling unit, getting, I believe, only about 22 votes, while Soludo got 57 votes. I'd like your general assessment on Peter Obi and the Labour Party, if you wish. Peter Obi, who is a former governor of the state, losing out with such low numbers.
Yes, that is unexpected. 2023, as you made reference to, the identity factor played again, and we find Peter Obi winning, the Labour Party that flagged Peter Obi winning in an Anambra State. But things have so changed. A new political bargain has emerged that has suppressed the Peter Obi movement and what it represents both at the regional and the national politics.
All right. that was short. That was short and sharp, Prof. But I
thought he was frozen.
Is that all you had to say?
Professor Adetula, can you hear us?
I think he can hear us.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. No, we were just wondering that your response to OG's question was quite short and sharp. Do you want us to move on to other questions, or you are still speaking?
No, because it builds on the previous question we have asked. I said it at the beginning that it's about a new dynamics, a new form of alignment, and that has suppressed the previous, thinking. There was massive votes for Peter Obi and the Labour Party because there was an Igbo person ready to project the Igbo identity at the national politics.
Okay, so
Today,
when we talk about the 2027 election now, when you see this sort of results for the Labour Party and Peter Obi in Anambra, what do you make of that? What do you besides the fact that it's because obviously the politics in Anambra is played at the state level, like you've highly mentioned. What do you make of Peter Obi, even at the presidential level, getting Anambra in any way, getting any wins in Anambra?
What do I make of Peter Obi is simply that for the Peter Obi movement to be relevant in 2027, quite a lot of work needs to be done. But will it change the pattern of game that we have today? And that will depend on whether the new emerging alignment will cease after this election or not. And I don't see it. Because the people behind the new alignment to get Eastern Nigeria, they are not just resting, they will continue to work. And of course, you can see that, you can see the increased visibility of President Tinubu political strength in Imo and also extending to other places. So the Peter Obi movement will need to do a lot of things, a lot of work to match that. Now, I'm not hanging this on the party system in Nigeria. I'm hanging it on individual political actors and the kind of influence they are wielding.
All right, Professor Adetula, I would like you to, I want us to return to what I said earlier when I said winners and losers. I wasn't speaking in terms of just what INEC has announced. Of course, we know that the ultimate winner is Professor Charles Soludo. But I'm thinking in terms of other ancillary elements that we can point at and analyze, given the fact that you represent an organization that was on ground and has been analyzing things. What therefore would be your summation, your assessment of INEC in this performance? We have seen, we have heard of very, commendable words to INEC, even from the winner himself. We have not heard of any glitches whatsoever, either during the election process itself or during collation. Beavers, we were told, performed very well. IREV, as at last night by midnight, about 97% of the results had been uploaded, which ultimately tallied with what the REC announced today. Is that a thumb up for the Professor Amupiton-led INEC? And what does this say to the preparedness of the electoral body towards 2027. There are at least 2 other off-season elections as far as governorship election is concerned. Ekiti is coming, Osun State is coming, and then the big one in 2027. Should Nigerians heave a sigh of relief that the Amupitan-led INEC can deliver?
Yes, on a lighter note, just as you made reference to hearing from the winner, I will say also wait and hear from the loser. More pointedly to the question about just for us to have a balance, and I know you represent the media that push for balance.
Absolutely.
Position.
Absolutely.
But more importantly, on the question about the performance of INEC under Professor Amupitan, I think over the years we are witnessing, we've been witnessing progressive improvement in the performance of INEC, and the introduction of technology is also being managed to enhance efficiency and effectiveness. I think this last election, we have seen some kind of improvement with the transmission of results. That is remarkable, and we're looking forward to, that kind, or even better or improvement on that as we approach 2027. That is remarkable, because Nigerians were seriously at alert, waiting to see what will happen because of the baggage of the 2023 election. We have to give that and acknowledge that. But that is not to say that there are no areas that require attention, which may not be the direct responsibility of INEC. But the one that for INEC is that, look, there are lessons to be learned. There is need for increased collaboration and synergy with other agencies, security, and other relevant agencies that have responsibility within the electoral environment. I think we want to see more working together and coming to table with a common position. There are issues around vote buying, vote trading, and of course, to have vote trading, you have a buyer and you have a seller. I think there is need for increased civic and voters' education for the people, so that we have a kind of behavioral change that look beyond transactional politics. So INEC under Professor Amupitan has responded to the challenge, and we look forward to a hitch-free 2027.
Well, that's exactly the goal. We want 2027 to be hitch-free and as straightforward as possible. But as you rightly established, 2027 will be 2027 at the end of the day, and we will wait to see how what has played out right now plays any kind of impact in 2027. But at the same time, looking forward now to every single person that equally participated in this election. You said we've heard from the winner. We should also hear from the losers. The governor did say that this is a time for everybody to come together to create a better Anambra State. That is, of course, every other person that participated, from Nicholas Ikochukwu to Mogalu of Labour Party. It's interesting because I would love to say PDP as well, but PDP was not even in the top three. The top three winners for this particular election. But even with the PDP coming together, do you see the likelihood of that happening? Considering that for some of these people, this was their first time trying to participate in this sort of exercise, and, we cannot have sore losers. It doesn't stop them from trying again. So do you think this is going to, in any way, create a breath of fresh air for Anambra State, in the sense that perhaps in the next election cycle, we might see some of the losers that we've seen at this election come out stronger?
Even though I acknowledge the fact that there will be alliances, they will continue, but not the type that can significantly change the game. That is what is likely to happen. If we decide to focus on the political parties, there is none of them that is not facing internal crisis. That's the truth. So we continue to see this, if you like, cross-carpeting or shifting alliances. And of course, that will be a plus, and it will help consolidate what Governor Soludo and President Tinubu have come together to package, which I can say, my opinion now, has played out well for Governor Soludo. You can see that even if you compare the visibility during campaign, during mobilization of APGA and APC, you can see that APGA was far ahead compared with any other political party. So I don't see any other coming together of political parties or individuals that were visible in this gubernatorial election affecting what we are likely to see in 2027.
I'd like to thank you very much for joining us on the morning show and for your analysis on this Anambra election.